Hey everybody, where we left off just a moment ago was we were setting up our directories. We have everything already installed. We created everything. You can see here I have downloaded Mary's letter for this specific directory for hopping by grace. OSINT was one of our hardest challenges or categories, and this was also one of the hardest challenges. As you can see, only 2 solves. I created this, so I know what route I took, but I was also told of a different route that people could have taken to get where they needed to go. So I'm going to walk you through the way I intended you to solve this, and I'll show you the faster way that someone solved this with much less time than it took for me to actually make the challenge itself. So first things first, I'm going to break down what I do for every single OSINT challenge, and then we'll go through every part of this. Now I have some tabs open already, but we'll come back to that. First thing, I take down the title of the category, or the challenge. It's hopping by grace. I know that this is OSINT, so I'm going to say category OSINT. And then I say, what's my ultimate goal? I need to find this flag, which is Nick, and the name of a performance. So, what performance? Then I start to look at any time that might be important to know. So it says, one of our members sent us a message, we're confused. Why? Because it said it was sent around 96 years ago. Well, it's currently 2023, 96 years ago would be 1927. You don't need to do the math, I give you that math right there. But I digress, we're going to keep going. They said that they were up late studying in Van Houten Library. That's not important, it's just the library that they were in, that's here at NJIT. And they got a call from Anna and Simon, 2 of the other characters mentioned throughout this CTF, to come sing with them in the city. Okay, so we know Anna and Simon were doing some karaoke or something, that's cool. Except they never got to Penn Station. They arrived to Penn, but in 1927. After that, I guess it's history. At least you got to be in a performance. Cool. Also, we do give you a hint. It says, not too many colleges accepted women in the 1920s near New York City. So it's a good place for you to start. It's trying to find a place where people accepted women. But let's first take note of everything else. I always write down any key information. The people. Anna and Simon, they were addressed in the letter. Is that important? We don't know. Probably not, because they were just addressed in the letter. Mary is the letter sender. We can see that right here. Helen is going to come up in the letter, and Grace Hopper, well, at that point, we only know her as Grace. Some people did immediately piece this together that it was about Grace Hopper because of Grace and hopping, and that was brilliant, but if you're not familiar with Grace Hopper, then you would never have done that. So you'd have to find your way there. But let's look at the letter. Get all the information up front. So, it says, Anna, Simon, I'm so sorry I couldn't make it out. When I left the library, I guess I got lost in a temporal anomaly. Yeah, we know that they time traveled. I know my great aunt Helen lived up the Hudson, so I went to stay with her. Fantastic. That adds another location for us. We know it's up the Hudson River, and if you don't know the Hudson, you can Google Hudson Penn Station. You'll find the Hudson River. You'll see that New York City sits at the mouth of the river, so the only way up is up. So you have to go anywhere along the Hudson River, and there's a big stretch of land there, so it's not too narrow, but there weren't many colleges around that time. It says, at least I can meet Grace, and that they're going to continue their education at one of the few colleges that they're allowed. So we know that this Mary M, we now assign her a last initial. Going to be important if we want to verify. Not necessary to solve, but good to verify. We know locations that they were in: New York City, Penn Station, Van Houten Library. They're not there anymore. Personally, I'm just going to delete that. Not important. We know it was up the Hudson River in New York State. They stated it right here. And we're looking for the end location. What college did they go to? So, right, if they're at a college, they're a college student, most likely they're not getting on some crazy stage and doing like a huge performance. It's got to be associated with the school in some way. They're a college student. And then it says, P.S. Aunt Helen says I might be able to perform this summer. Wish you could see me now. Hopefully I'll see you soon, but if I'm right, soon is relative. So Helen has something to do with it. They're probably associated with the college as well, in some way, or at least with this performance. We know that they're going to perform in the summer, but we don't know the date when this letter was sent. We know it was sent in 1926 or 1927, but we don't really know, was it March or was it later? And from here, you can assume that it's going to be later because of some simple logic that you have to take. If you are a college student, you already know this. You can't register for classes halfway through the semester. It's currently March 13th, as you can see, and that's when most of this has been happening. Everyone can see during the event, everything's March. It's all about spring forward, so daylight savings time here in the States. So we know you can't register for classes in March. The semester is almost over. We're halfway through. So they're going to be going to college in the fall. So most likely this was sent in the fall. And if they're going to be able to perform in the summer, then it's 1928. Even if you didn't take that leap, if you didn't say, okay, I know that they're in school, they're re-registering for classes, and then they can perform in the summer. You have 2 summers that you have to find a performance in associated with a college, associated with a mysterious Grace that you didn't know at the time maybe was Grace Hopper. Not guesswork, it's not guessy, this is actually just saying, I know this much. I know this is important, I know this is important, I know this is important. This, probably not, so I'm going to separate this. So this is important. I don't think this is important, but it might be. I know that this is important, and I know this is the most important. Where did they end up? Now, I'm going to take this out because that is the solution for where they ended up, but I'll show you how you can find that. And then finally, you see Grace Hopper is the Grace mentioned. I'm going to come back to this and show you how you would find that as well. But this is all the information that we're given up front. Everything from here up is everything that we've been given from the start. So now let's keep track of our progress. So I'm going to say research. And research is literally just Googling things. So we're going to go to Google. I'm going to say 1927 Hudson River colleges accept women, and see if I can find anything about colleges along the Hudson River. I can see Mount St. Mary's would have been a good option to start looking at, but that just opened up. The greater Mount St. Mary, that would have just opened up. Probably not if she knew that she was going to school there. So let's look at the timeline of women's colleges. Now this is a lot to go through, honestly. Like, you can try to search. I think even if I just search for Vassar, like, it's going to say, oh, it's here. But it was just a women's college until the 60s. If you didn't know Vassar College, there's no way you're going to go through here. And also, it's not noted on the Wikipedia that this is associated with it. You could go through each individual one. I'm telling you, this is one way you could have searched. But let's instead say women's colleges in New York, 1920s. And I'm defaulted over to DuckDuckGo because I'm on my I'm on my Parrot machine, and I can see more about this. I can see historical colleges, and I can keep searching this way, and I can note hey, I didn't find anything like this, or I can say women's colleges 1920s, and there's a Grace that was mentioned. Okay, so we can keep digging through all this, and eventually you can find what you're looking for. But an easier way is just say, okay, colleges by Hudson River, and we can kind of work our way up. And this is Google Maps, so we're not going anything crazy, and we can just zoom in. And we can work our way up. We know it's north on the Hudson, so this is the Hudson River. You're following your way upstate. And if you looked through a few of these, you could say, okay, Mount St. Mary maybe, and Mary is, her name, so possibly, but doubtful. And you just really need to look for something associated with a Grace. Really, that is the key here, is knowing Grace and Grace Hopper. It is Women's History Month here in the States, so knowing Grace Hopper is a huge clue. If you had figured that out, you say Grace Hopper, and then you start looking and learning about Grace Hopper. An enormous personality. This is a very, very powerful person for all of history. For computer scientists, we should know who she is. And we can kind of see where they went to school, see if anything is noted. I start searching for 1920, and then automatically this pops up. I see Vassar College. Immediately Vassar College. I can see their alma mater is Vassar. I see that they also went to Yale. They got their master's and their PhD there, but they went to Vassar College first. So, hopping by Grace Hopper. We know that this is Grace Hopper. Again, we're not doing guesswork. We're literally saying this is taking the title and using it. Even if you search, like, I think just searching Grace and Hop, it automatically starts to pop up. And you can say Grace hopping might show. I never did that search in my life, actually, to be honest. But when you start to search for Grace Hop, it does pop up the Grace Hopper. So Google's got your back on most OSINT challenges. So we're going to go through and we see here Grace Hopper. Now I'm going to leave extra notes. Okay. Research. I'm going to say found women's colleges in New York State. You could cross-reference the list of colleges in New York State that accepted women. And then you're trying to find something with Grace. This is another way. If you were looking Mount St. Mary College, Grace Hopper, anything pop up? No. You do see a spotlight on Women's History Month, but no. Even if you just say Grace, no. Just like famous, like not even famous, just students now, I guess. No. But you could work your way up, and if you, again, kept going and you found Vassar College, a very famous college here in the States, and you typed in Grace, again, Grace Hopper is going to pop right up. She'll be here. Found Grace Hopper, graduated in 1928. So now there's a few pieces of information that you know. So right away, we know that Grace Hopper went to Vassar College, graduated in 1928. We know that the performance is also probably in 1928 summer. Because it says, hey, they re-registered for school and they can perform in the summer. Cool. There has to be a strong correlation between Grace Hopper and graduating from Vassar and this performance. So let's look up Grace Hopper graduation. 1928. All right. And I could click here. I tend to go through and I start looking more, and I would dive through some of these. And I can see a little bit more. I can read up about them while they were at Vassar, anything else that might have happened. But I tend to look for specifically this because Grace Hopper wasn't famous at the time. They were not a famous person. They were just another student out of school. So Vassar College, 1928 graduation is more prevalent of a search. And it's because, again, we didn't know who Grace Hopper was. We didn't know that they were going to be like one of the most influential women in computer science. But we can go here. As you can see, Vassar College, 1928 graduation. Now here is where I'm going to show you where the paths diverge. I'm going to show you first how one of my executive board members found this, and then how I had intended you to solve it. His way is a lot faster. You're going to see June 1928, and it mentions graduation. We also see the word commencement, so if you're not a native English speaker, commencement is going to be important. June 1928, commencement, graduation. So let's go. It says, my mission today, and we can read through here. Is Grace mentioned at all? No, she's not going to be. She would have also been known as Grace Murray at the time. So that's a little bit harder to search. But if you start scrolling around through what we would call like the warmer months, the summer months, we can start here and we're going to say, okay, February, no. March, no. May's warm. So yeah. And I'm going to start noting anytime any performance here. Lorenzo the Magnificent. Any other performances mentioned? It says here, oh, it was started again, staged again at commencement. Now I'm going to tell you right away, that's the flag. That's what you were looking for. It wasn't far off. You had to look during the warm months. Commencement happened in June. So we can go through and here's where it was. But you didn't have to go through there. You could also say Vassar College commencement, 1928. And there's more that you would find. You could look in here. What's the quarterly? And you could say, okay, this is very hard to read because of how blurry it is, but 63rd commencement, and we can see a little bit here. I'm pretty sure it would have been mentioned in here as well. There it is, Lorenzo the Magnificent. Also mentioned in the quarterly. I will tell you that's not where I personally found it. I went to here, Vassar College 1928 commencement. And I look for the program for any performance. And this is my trickiness, and I definitely wanted to do this on purpose, was I wanted people to just accept the risk and continue because it's past something else. But there were two other ways you could have found this. Either in that one sheet where they're like giving you the highlights, or just looking at the quarterly that they printed out. So again, mentioned in the quarterly, but this is the commencement that they give away at any graduation. And they'll say, oh, here's what's coming up. And this is how I personally found it to submit that flag, to like create that flag. I was going through something where she would have graduated, and here's where you could confirm all suspicions. So let me scroll down. We can see it's got Lorenzo the Magnificent, and I'm just, can I make this full screen? Possibly. Yeah. So, Lorenzo the Magnificent by Helen Reisenfield. Okay. So a Helen is mentioned. And let's see if there's anything else that we have to go off of. Here are the characters, here are the actors who perform them. We go through, we go through, we go through, and here's Miss Mary Morse. We can give her a last name now. Name is Morse. Doesn't matter, but we have the flag. So now the flag is just Nick Lorenzo the Magnificent. And that's it. That is how you would have solved that little challenge. So we'll head back over to SFCTF. Now, note, it does say that this would be capitalized, so if you weren't like me and you didn't capitalize it first, make sure you do. But that would have been the correct flag. Again, not as hard as it was made out to be, but it was our more difficult challenge. And obviously, like, not everything can be easy. So let's go to the next OSINT.